right on top of an info provider or some sort of data set, and pick and choose the columns and the measures that we want to report. And then the third thing I'll show you is a print pretty report, a nice little financial statement. We'll go ahead and minimize this. Pardon my clicks here. And let's first show you an ad hoc report. So I have the analysis add-on installed on my machine. When you install it, you'll have this tab, this worksheet, or I'm sorry, this tab, and it has all these different tools available. I'm going to insert a data source, and it's going to ask me what data source. So it could be any kind of data source. It could be a HANA view, it could be an info cube. There is a little bit of IT setup involved, and so what we're going to look at is specifically a query view on which IT has built me. Pardon me. It'll be a query view that I saved built on top of a query that IT has built me. So here's an aggregation. And I know some of these terms are quite technical and maybe new to you. And here's a variant. So the scenario is this. There is a variance between the plans and that plan and actual as it's related to our net income. My manager has tasked me with trying to find that variance. So I've opened up an ad hoc report, and what I can do is I can insert a new line, and I can type variance here, and I can just create a simple formula. And I can see, yes, there is quite a large variance. There's an $11 million variance here in my net income. And if I do a little analysis and I see that my variance is relating to my operating profit. So let's drill down here. Look to my right a little. There is the variances further down in gross profit. Looks like it's in my revenues. And it looks like that huge number, there's a huge amount of it in sales discounts, so there must be something wrong with my sales discounts. So if I right click here and I just want to swap it, I want to know what products were involved here. So I can swap it with products. It'll filter and swap. All right, it's pretty flat. I'd like to see that with a little bit more structure that I'm familiar with, so I can just go over here to the right side and select a hierarchy that's been defined for me, our product hierarchy. And I can see that it's the bathroom products there where I have my variance, specifically tubs. So if I right click on this, I want to figure out who do I have to call in order to fix this problem. Okay, which profit center do I have to get in touch with in order to fix this problem? So I can filter and swap again and select profit center. And there we see it. The North American Profit Center. So this ad hoc report shows that I can very easily do some analysis using a data source that has been created for me, which is great, but a lot of finance people say, but I have to rely on IT in order to get my numbers. That's not entirely true. What I can do is, let's say that I am a BPC admin, or maybe I'm in touch with the BPC admin and they're in the finance group. I can ask them to log into the admin console and create for me a particular view. Or a particular model, so that I can see the precise data that I want to see. So I go to administration, and I'm going to create a model on the fly, and then build a query right on top of it. So if I go to models, and I create a new model, and in BPC Embedded and BPC Optimized for S/4HANA, models are cheap. You can create as many as you like. So we'll call this AO webinar. And we'll create this model. It's a planning model. So I just need to select my info provider. And let's say IT has created a query for me that is very wide, very expansive. Maybe it's hundreds of columns wide, including document number. I don't have to ask them to create another query for me. What I can do instead is create this model sitting on top of that info provider, and then say, I want to be able to write a local query on top of it. So I'll switch this on. And then select the local query basis setting and save this model. Bam, that model is saved. Now I can go back and I can create a query that is accessible to my users based on that model. So I'll create a new query. I select the AO webinar query or a model, click OK. And now I have all the fields that are available. Let's name this. And let's say that we wanted to do a product and profit center report. I want to include the amount, so I can just move this to my columns. I want to know this by a fiscal year period, so we'll move this to the columns as well. And then let's say I want to have my product in my rows, and then I want to have my profit center as my free characteristic. Now let's go a step further. Actually, let's rename this report. It's not just product and profit center. We'll say it's product and profit center actuals. And I can add a filter on this. I only want to see actuals. So in this particular system, my actuals would be version 0. So I'm going to say filter this only to allow us to see version 0. Click OK. And that's it. I can save this. That query is saved. Now, if we go here, go back to AO, I can select the field and insert another data source. And this time, I go to Workspaces, where I have my BPC environments. Go to Product Plan, here's my Workspace query. And here's my product and profit center actuals with the technical name we gave it. Click OK. And there we are. We can do the same thing that we did in the previous one, where we add the hierarchy to as a structure here. And this shows an example of how, if the finance accounting group or the finance accounting team is given a very wide query, some of the concerns have been, if you give me a huge query, I'm not going to be able to open that up in AO. If you disperse that by creating a virtual view or a virtual local query on top of the existing query, and then you can make it a very tightly constructed, to the point. You can tailor it to the needs of your users, and it has the BPC BPF functionality built into it, the BPC security aspects built into it. All the little goodies that were adopted from the previous version into the new BPC embedded and optimized for S/4HANA versions. What I wanted to do was just change this so it's text and key. So that's an example. That was a demonstration of how you can disperse. I wanted to dispel that myth of this being a completely finance-owned application. Now the other aspect, the final aspect that's been brought up is I can't get a report that doesn't look like a pivot table, and that also is not true. So let's say that there is a workbook that has been saved organization-wide that'll show us our principal P&L. So what I'm gonna open here is a P&L statement that pulls from the same data set that we've been looking at, and it's dynamic and shareable. And this is AO. So there's filters that I can give to my users that maybe they only want to watch or see March 2016. Or let's say that they only want to see it for a particular company code. The data changes along with it. So as you can see, some of the capabilities here in AO, they do rival in certain aspects to the EPM add-in. It's just that the user community has not quite caught up to, they haven't quite caught up to what the expectations were with the EPM add-in. But as time goes on, as more companies adopt these tools, the user community will grow, it will flourish, and because of the underlying technology, I feel that it's going to be very difficult to step away from the potential that BPC, optimized for S/4HANA, has, and the value it's going to bring to companies will be tremendous, because finally, the old saying, one version of the truth can become a reality. So that concludes the demonstration, and we're open for any questions or comments that the group may have had. John, from here.
Yes, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and key them in. And what Mani and I wanted to show you today was an example of AO and how it might be used for either ad hoc analysis or highly formatted reporting. But accepting the fact that we could only show you an example of something that we came up with. The real application here is how this might be applied in your organization versus your profile of licenses and with your appropriate skill sets. So if anybody has any individual applications they'd like to discuss with us, please reach out to us, john.collins@simplifysolutions.com, and we'd love to get involved and help out and show you how this solution might be applied in your organization as well. Mm-hmm. And let us get the contact information up here again. Feel free to reach out to myself, John.Collins, or Monty.Guevara@simplifysolutions.com. We'd love to consider your individual application and help out any way we can.
Yeah. There is a question, John. Can you read SAP 2 dimensions database tables from AL? I'm unsure on what the question means. Is there a clarifying follow-up to that? Can the person who Okay, there's another question. What is the average learning curve to switch from EPM to AL? This is a good question. So as we were building these reports, that financial statement specifically, that particular report was actually built by someone who went from the EPM add-in to AO. They spent about four to 6 hours building that financial statement, going through, without any training. And his background was in finance and accounting. So I wouldn't say that the EPM to AO learning curve is steep, because the challenge of switching over to AO is not necessarily in learning how to use the reporting application. It's in understanding how you would model your data. So to answer that question, what is the average learning curve to switch from EPM to AO? I think it's going to wind up being an organization-wide learning curve, not just for report writers. It's going to be, how do we tweak our thinking from modeling data in silos, and how do we start modeling it when you have access organization-wide? That's going to be a challenge, and that's something that we're hoping that we can help customers understand with the resources that they have in place. So I don't want to say it's extremely easy. It's not extremely easy because there are some challenges, but they are more related to the organization rather than specifically the AO tool. The AO tool, if you're familiar with Excel, should be relatively easy to pick up. It doesn't have the functions that SAP has given us, they're not extremely expansive. As time goes on, they will, but not at this point. Okay, I'm trying to go through some of these questions. I'm having an issue with my interface here. Okay, next question was, I have a requirement to read some security table. I could write an ABAP program. I'm not sure if AO will help read this table. If the table is in a HANA database, you can create a view on top of that, and then you could actually hook into the HANA database. That's some of the stuff that I'm very excited about, is that you can use AO for non-financial reporting applications. You could use it for IT-related things, and I think that's why IT people are very excited about this particular tool, and S/4HANA in general. So that's from Rajesh. Let me see here. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit slow with these questions. I'm having some issues with my...
And Monty, there's another question here. Can we use EPM add-in for some environments and AO for other environments?
Yes, EPM add-in is still available for standard models, and you can have a standard and an embedded model at the same time. So when I created that model on top of the data, you can select to make it a standard model. I'm sorry, not a standard model, a standard environment. So you can have your legacy stood up alongside your embedded. Are there any other questions? Let me see, can you read two SAP dimensions? DB tables from AO. So I'm going to come back to this question. So I know I kind of circled around it. Can you read SAP two-dimension DB tables from AO? I want to say the answer to this is yes. So in AO, you are not limited to, in one worksheet, one Excel worksheet, you're not limited to one data source. So you can build a workbook, which is the P&L, similar to the P&L, something that you'd save. You can build a workbook using two different data sources, and in turn you can combine those two data sources to create one report. And then in essence, you'd be reading from two database tables. So I think for Rajesh, I think that answers your question there. There's the average learning. We've answered that one. Okay, so from Rajesh, it was a P or M table. I don't know the answer to that one. as far as the, so the question was, can I read data from not an info provider, but a P or M table? And the way that HANA is built, we should be able to get at the P or M tables by building a view on top of it, and therefore accessing it there. So the HANA view would not be your info provider. It would be a HANA view, and you should be able to plug into the HANA view, and in turn, you should be able to get into the P or M table. Let me see. I think that we may have gotten to all the questions here, John.
Okay, well, sounds good. And if anybody has any additional questions or any questions you want to ask us directly, feel free to reach out to Monty or myself. Send us an email. We'll research your answer and get that to you right away. And if you do have any individual applications you'd like us to consider at your organizations, please reach out to us as well, and we'd love to get on a con call with you and discuss your opportunity and determine the best way to help out. We'll be running more of these webinars in the future, so watch for the invites coming up. If you have any ideas on topics you'd like us to cover related to SAP planning or business intelligence solutions, feel free to let us know that as well. And with that, we'll sign off for today. Everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.